The 2025 NFL trade deadline concluded with a wild number of crazy star-packed trades, with the New York Jets unloading some of their stars like Quincy Williams and Sauce Gardner to the Dallas Cowboys and Indianapolis Colts respectively, who now have new homes with the Seattle Seahawks, Philadelphia Eagles, and Jacksonville Jaguars. However, numerous other big names in the NFL missed the trade war and are still on their respective teams. Unless they themselves ask for a release and sign a quick deal with a title contender before the playoffs begin. In the meantime, the NFL players who weren't traded must do whatever it takes to win games and perform their best, so they can have a chance to earn a new contract with their current team, or maybe even a new team that they'll call home. Today, we're going to explore 10 NFL players who weren't traded and what teams they should have been traded to instead of staying on their current team. Breece Hall, running back, New York Jets. Although the Jets parted ways with Sauce Gardner and Quincy Williams, as mentioned earlier, it was stunning to see them not deal Hall. Hall has averaged 5 yards per carry, rushed for over 100 yards in 3 games, and scored 2 touchdowns in the team's first win over the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 8. Hall posted a cryptic social media post, which has since been deleted, fueling trade rumors before the trade deadline closed. But he wasn't picked up by anyone. Rumors had emerged about the Kansas City Chiefs potentially trading for Hall to add to their backfield, with Isaiah Pacheco out with a knee injury. But the Jets turned the Chiefs down. If they didn't, Hall would have flourished under Andy Reid in their offensive system. Meanwhile, the Jets would have gotten at least a third-round pick for the 2026 NFL Draft. Hall would have seen a boost in production and potentially caused havoc against opposing defenses in the AFC West. Hall could ask for a release if the Jets' season continues to sink and sign with a contender down the road. But will that happen? We don't know. For now, Hall remains a Jet and needs to do whatever he can to help his team win its remaining games moving forward. Jaylen Waddle, wide receiver, Miami Dolphins. Similar to their AFC East rivals, the Jets, the Dolphins have been having a disastrous season, most recently losing an ugly 28-6 Thursday night game to the Baltimore Ravens. Jaylen Waddle is stuck on a painfully bad Dolphins team and has been averaging 14.3 yards per game, and has only scored 4 touchdowns so far this season. Waddle signed a 4-year, $84.75 million contract extension in April of the 2024 offseason. The Dolphins really should have traded Waddle to the Steelers, who would have utilized him in their passing attack along with his former teammate tight end Jonnu Smith. Meanwhile, the Dolphins would have gotten a first-round pick for the 2026 draft. This potential trade also would have benefited the Steelers long-term, as Waddle will be 27 later this month and is still in his prime. On top of that, the Steelers would have given him a contract extension and continued building long-term for the seasons ahead in order to compete with the Baltimore Ravens for supremacy of the AFC North. Chris Olave, wide receiver, New Orleans Saints. Similar to Waddle, Olave is in his prime, but his prime years are being wasted on some very bad Saints teams, and Olave has dealt with injuries during his tenure. Olave has averaged 10.2 receiving yards per game, has 560 receiving yards, and scored 3 touchdowns so far this season. The Bills would have been a very nice fit for Olave, as they don't have a number 1 wideout for Josh Allen to throw to. The Bills would have had to give up at least a 2nd or 3rd rounder for Olave's services. Olave, though, would have instantly become the new number 1 wide receiver for Josh Allen to work with, and potentially retake the AFC East and earn a contract extension to stay in Western New York and continue improving his game with the Bills' offense. But instead, Olave is stuck being a member of the Saints, and the team has exercised his 5th-year option, keeping him in the Big Easy. Sure would have been sweet to see Olave catch passes from Allen, as opposed to Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck. Oh well, all I can do now is imagine the wild what-if scenario in our minds. Quincy Williams, linebacker, New York Jets. Although Quincy Williams was traded to the Dallas Cowboys, his brother Quincy is still on the Jets. Williams had 22 tackles and 1.5 sacks so far this season, but the Jets continue to lose a majority of their games, even though they earned their first win of the season in a 39-38 victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. The Jets wanted to snag a 4th-round draft pick for Williams, but no one traded for him before the end of the trade deadline. A potential team that would have or should have traded for Williams is the San Francisco 49ers. Williams would have reunited with Robert Saleh and filled the role for Fred Warner, who's out for the season with a broken ankle. On top of that, the 49ers have a very talented defense for Williams to adjust to, and would have guided them through a very competitive NFC West against the Arizona Cardinals, Los Angeles Rams, and Seattle Seahawks, who are not making things easy. For now, Williams must continue to step up for gangrene and play his heart out in order to earn a new contract with a potential new NFL team in 2026, as he's currently on a contract year with the team. Trey Hendrickson, defensive end, Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals. For months and months, we have heard just how unhappy Hendrickson has been with the Bengals and how he's held out of training camp until late July of 2025, not practicing with the team until he got a new contract. Hendrickson did eventually get a $14 million raise, but he's going to be a free agent after the conclusion of the 2025 season. Hendrickson has 16 tackles and 4 sacks so far this season, but has dealt with a nagging hip injury. Hendrickson will continue bolstering a Bengals defense that has really struggled so far this season, as they've given up 33.3 points and 426.5 yards per game, which is some of the worst in the NFL. A team that should have rolled its sleeves up and traded for Hendrickson is the Detroit Lions. Seeing Hendrickson paired up with Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive line would have caused nightmares for opposing offenses for the remainder of the season. But alas, Hendrickson remains a Bengal, while his teammate Logan Wilson got traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Hendrickson must continue to do whatever he can on this lousy Bengals defense, working up to earn a lucrative contract that he really deserves from another team when he becomes a free agent after the season ends. David Njoku, tight end, Cleveland Browns. Although the Browns didn't want to trade Njoku, he still holds value to the team's offense despite the team being in last place of the AFC North. Njoku currently averages 9.6 yards per game and has scored 2 touchdowns. The Browns are looking to add younger players to the roster as they continue to rebuild for the future, and Njoku is set to be a free agent at the end of the season. They already have his potential replacement, Harold Fannin Jr. on the roster, and he currently leads the team in receptions with 38 and receiving yards with 352 so far this season. Oh, and he's also scored 2 touchdowns. The Green Bay Packers really should have made a trade for Njoku's services, as they lost their own tight end, Tucker Kraft, to a season-ending ACL tear in their Week 9 16-13 loss to the Carolina Panthers. Njoku would have fit in perfectly with the Packers offense, forming excellent chemistry with Jordan Love right from the get-go. It's just a deal that would have made a lot of sense. Minkah Fitzpatrick, safety, Miami Dolphins. Fitzpatrick has been a bright spot on their defense and was already traded to the team before the season began for Jaylen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and a 2026 second-round pick back in June of 2025. Fitzpatrick has 50 tackles, a fumble recovery, and an interception returned for 7 yards so far this season, even though the Dolphins have struggled all around him and are in 3rd place in the AFC East. Kinda surprising that the Kansas City Chiefs didn't make a move to trade for Fitzpatrick, as he would have made a significant impact in defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo's system right away. The Chiefs could have given the Dolphins a 2nd or 3rd round pick in the upcoming 2026 draft and get a reliable veteran safety patrolling that secondary. On top of that, the Chiefs have a 5-4 record and have lost to rival AFC West teams the Los Angeles Chargers and the Denver Broncos once this season. So if Fitzpatrick were added to the lineup, they would be in a much stronger position to compete for a chance to snag the AFC West crown from their 2 division rivals. You know, as opposed to being in the hunt for a playoff spot, at least for now. A.J. Brown, wide receiver, Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are expected to repeat as NFC East champions for the first time since the early 2000s. However, A.J. Brown has not been happy with the lack of targets on offense, as evidenced by cryptic social media posts and interviews. Brown has averaged 13.6 yards per game, has had 395 receiving yards, and has scored 3 touchdowns so far this season. Howie Roseman explained to the media that the Eagles had no plans to trade Brown, as they plan to try and pursue another Lombardi trophy. But man, it would have been interesting to see a team try to give the Eagles an offer that they just couldn't refuse for Brown's services. Heck, the Buffalo Bills would have been an ideal team to make this offer, as they really need a new number 1 wide receiver for Josh Allen to work with. Brown would have made a huge impact on the Bills' offense for Allen and company and carried that team to retake first place in the AFC East over the Drake May-led New England Patriots. Brown on the Bills also would have boosted their Super Bowl aspirations and potentially gotten them over the hump in the AFC Championship game. Oh well, all we can do now is see Brown and the Bills win the Super Bowl in our imagination. Bradley Chubb, linebacker, Miami Dolphins. Similar to Fitzpatrick, Chubb wasn't dealt away from the Dolphins, even though there were plenty of rumors swirling around early on. Chubb has 25 tackles, 4 sacks, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery so far this season. As we mentioned before, the Dolphins have been awful in 2025, and trading veterans to contenders makes a lot of sense for a struggling organization like the Dolphins in order to rebuild and reset set for the next season. The Chicago Bears really should have made a move to trade away a 4th-round draft pick in order to acquire Chubb's services, as he would have brought veteran experience to the team's pass rush and potentially guided them to their first playoff spot since the 2020 season. Instead, the Bears traded for Joe Tryon-Shoyinka from the Cleveland Browns, who may be younger than Chubb, but Chubb has a bit more of an impressive resume compared to the former, as he's made 2 Pro Bowls and would have brought the Bears a much more competitive presence on defense. Arden Key, linebacker, Tennessee Titans. Key is another defensive veteran who didn't get traded out of a struggling Titans team, who have really not done too much this 2025 season. Key has had 6 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and a blocked kick so far this season. Similar to Bradley Chubb, Key would bring a strong veteran presence to defenses. Unlike Chubb, Key does not have a Pro Bowl, and has dealt with a quadriceps injury that has sidelined him for a few games. However, in spite of this, the Detroit Lions really should have made a move for Key before the trade deadline, as adding him to the pass rush would have complemented Aiden Hutchinson very nicely, and given the team a safety blanket just in case Hutchinson suffered an injury. Heck, the Lions probably could have just given the Titans a 5th-round pick in order for Key's services. However, Key is still a member of the Titans and is now set to be a free agent at the conclusion of the 2025 season. But what players do you think should have been traded before the deadline? What players do you think should have stayed with their teams? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then hey, clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.